As you can see, we're doing something a little different. Instead of a traditional Christmas service, what we're going to do today is observe and celebrate the winter solstice. Because the truth is, so many of our, what we think of as traditional Christmas traditions, actually come from the practices of the earth-based religions, the ancient earth-based religions, such as the Druids, the Celts, the pagans. So we're going to talk a little bit about all of those traditions, or many of those traditions, but what I wanted to do was first get an idea of what it really means, what solstice really means. Because you know, the solstice is tomorrow, and it's really, really important. It's not only important back then, but it's really, really important to us these days. So here's the definition of a solstice. It is an astronomical event that happens twice each year when the sun's apparent position in the sky reaches its northernmost or southernmost extremes. So that's a lot of words to say that when we have the winter solstice, it's when the sun is at its southernmost axis, its southernmost extreme, which means that the earth is tilted the furthest away from the sun. So the result of that is, as we have been observing, is the shortest day of the year and the longest night of the year. So as I said, the winter solstice happens somewhere right around December 21st, 22nd here in the Northern Hemisphere. And although it's considered to be the first day of winter, it's actually the moment when the days begin to get longer and the night begins to get shorter, minute by minute. So the days have been getting shorter as we've been moving up to the solstice, and when the solstice happens, they begin their ascent again to getting longer. So for these earth-based faiths, particularly here in the Northern Hemisphere, the solstice, even though they didn't understand anything about astronomy or anything like that, what it meant for them was that it was the promise of longer and warmer days. Particularly significant as you go further north, as I've discovered. But I mean, if you go all the way up, as you go all the way up to the Arctic Circle, on the winter solstice, the sun doesn't rise at all. It doesn't rise at all. They are plunged into total darkness on that day. So you can imagine for these people who knew nothing about science, who knew nothing about astronomy, how mystical, how magical this idea of the lengthening of the days were. To them, it was more than just a change of the season or the length of the days. It brought hope of survival. That makes sense? Hope of survival. So what they did was that they started the traditions, the practices of bringing things from nature into their homes as the promise of the days that are going to get longer and the days are going to get warmer. For instance, they would bring different symbolic things that, to kind of decorate the home, which would later be known as decking the halls. In fact, I have a fun video. Are we ready for that, Dwayne? I have a fun video. I've showed this to you before, but it's pretty cute, so just enjoy this.
Hi, Carol.
things that they would bring into their homes was greenery. To them, greenery symbolized the return of nature and nature's abundance. But in the winter, the only greenery that was there were the evergreens, the holly, the ivy, the mistletoe, the fir trees. So take a look. Does this look at all familiar? Does this remind you of anything? The holly and the ivy with their red and green colors. They were cherished because of their hardy nature and their ability to survive in the cold. So it gave people the hope that maybe they too would be hardy enough to survive the long winter months. Now, of course, the holly and the ivy and the red and the green are synonymous with Christmas anymore, even though I doubt that there was holly and ivy in Bethlehem where the Christmas story takes place. Are you getting a theme here? Then we got mistletoe, which is a sacred fertility symbol because it grows green on the oak during the winter. The ancients believed that it had potent regenerative powers, thus the tradition of kissing under the mistletoe. Besides, I'm sure the kissing and the cuddling that went along with it helped keep them warm at night as well. Also part of the solstice tradition, they would bring a fir tree into their homes and they would decorate it. To them, the decorated evergreen tree was a symbol of life eternal, even in the midst of the dead of winter. And here is a really interesting fact. I'm going to tell you two stories here. One interesting fact number one, the ancients believed that the tree roots were part of the underworld and the branches were among the stars, which is where the tradition of putting a star on the top of the tree came from. Now there's another story that goes along with this also, and it's the story of Santa on a very busy Christmas day. And he gets up and he goes into the toy shop and he finds that all of the elves are out sick because they partied too much the night before. And so he's really frustrated because it's Christmas Eve and he's just not having a great day. So he goes into the house and Mrs. Claus is kind of ragging on him and he decides he's going to go have a drink to kind of get himself settled, right? Before he has to go out into the cold. So he goes to the liquor cabinet and he opens it up and all the liquor's gone because that's what the elves have partied with. And so he's really, really frustrated. And just then there's a knock at the door and there's this tiny little gnome there, and he's got a big giant Christmas tree, and he goes, "Okay, fat man, where do you want me to put it?" Wait, did I tell that joke wrong? Okay, can I use the excuse I've been ill? Okay. It's really a funny joke, but I totally blew it. Okay, anyway, to recover from that, what we're going to do is sing the song O Tannenbaum. So I'm going to ask my Brendan to come up because I'm going to put the words up here. I know they're small for those of you in the back, but these are the actual solstice words for O Tannenbaum. We know it as O Christmas Tree, but let's sing together this O Tannenbaum song, and then you can forget about the joke that didn't go well. You ready, kid? O Tannenbaum, O Tannenbaum, how steadfast are your branches. O Tannenbaum, O Tannenbaum, how steadfast are your branches. Your boughs are green. So you're beginning to see where some of the traditions come from? As I've said many times, the early church found out that if they incorporated a culture's traditions, it made it easier to convert them to Christianity. In other words, it's easier to overtake a people if you let them keep their parties. Basically is what happened. So we're about to go into the ritual part of our service today. So I'm going to ask you guys to come on stage, and Ron, I'm going to ask you to come and light the candles. Light the candle here. If you have not had an opportunity to look at this absolutely spectacular centerpiece, make a point to do that. Don't light your candles yet. If you do not have a candle, please raise your hand. We want to make sure that everybody has a candle. So, yeah. So keep your hands raised. We want to make sure that everybody has a candle. It's a really, really important part. And Brendan needs one also. We'll make sure you get it. Keep your hands up, please. Keep your hands up. And don't turn them on yet, and you'll see why here in just a little bit. Keep your hands up. Let's make sure everybody gets them. Ames, we have two here in the corner here as well. Perfect. Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you. So for these earth-based traditions and religions that we're talking about, bringing light into their homes in the form of candles and Yule logs and hearth fires further symbolize the return of the sun and its light and warmth. For them it represents rebirth, the beginning of a new cycle, a new year, a new season. Now we often think of the newness coming with the spring, but for those who lived in such severe winters, just the idea of longer days brought a sense of joy and renewal. So I'm going to read a poem from a colleague of mine, Reverend Ruth Kirby. Wrote a beautiful poem about the solstice, and while I do that, why don't you go ahead and light that candle. The winter solstice is the longest night, and in the darkness we celebrate light. We celebrate the return of the sun's warm rays, bringing the promise of longer days. We gather together in a festive mood and honor each other with gifts and good food. We light special candles and sing special songs and shine our lights brightly all night long. And even if we are all alone, we can still light a candle and find our way home. For the spirit of solstice lives inside our heart and fills us with love when we sing in the dark. So these days, people throughout the world, they're rediscovering what it really means to celebrate these ancient traditions. I was researching online, I find all my stuff online, and found this really cool way of looking at it. I want to share it with you. It says, at the darkest moment of the year, light is reborn. From the womb of the night is born the child of light, who is the returning year. Solstice reminds us that the goddess is, above all, associated with regeneration. Death gives way to birth, endings to new beginnings. The solstice reminds us that every quality contains and gives way to its opposite. It is about finding the dynamic balance between the two opposites that generates the energies that sustain the world, the yin and the yang. Throughout the longest night, we keep vigil. And at dawn, as the Great Mother gives birth to the new year child, hope and inspiration arise within us, and we look on the world with the fresh eyes of a child. Again, it sounds a little bit like the birth of another ray of hope, doesn't it? The one that many people are celebrating at this season. And because the solstice celebrates not only the days getting longer, but also that balance between the dark and the light, we're going to do this ritual now that's going to symbolize that in our lives. I'm going to ask you to think about an area of your life that seems to be in the shadows. Something that feels out of balance for you. There's nothing wrong with having a shadow. It's a very natural part of life. So what I would like you to do is just bring it to mind. Don't dwell on it. Simply acknowledge that it exists. And once you have that in mind, then ask yourself if you are ready to bring the light back into the situation. Are you ready to release it? Are you ready to be reborn? And when you are ready to release the shadow and invite the light back in, and only when you're ready, then turn your candle on. And we're going to darken the house lights as that happens. Look around the room. As everyone has illuminated their candle, I invite you to repeat this affirmation with me. The coming year brings a fresh beginning, and like the sun, I am renewed and remade. I leave behind my hurts and troubles. I allow light into the shadows. I am a child of the earth and of the infinite heavens. My heart and soul is filled with light. And as you keep your light illumined, please welcome again Carl Anthony and our band.
Shower in light, sacred and holy. Shower in light, bathe in the radiant healing. Shower in light, brilliantly glowing. Shower in light, bathe in the radiant healing. Shower in light together. Shower in light. 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 Bathe in the radiant healing. Bathe in the radiant healing. can hold it